Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's show, we're recapping PSG's win over Olympique Lyonnais. We're going to discuss the latest comments made from Neymar, and we're going to give a reaction to the Champions League draw that happened last Thursday. Here to help me to do that, we've got Ethan from PSG Fan Club Boise and Drew from Dallas. I've had both of you guys on before, but never at the same time, so really looking forward to this. Hope you guys are doing well, and thanks for joining. We're recording this show just minutes after the final whistle of PSG's 4-1 win over Lyon at the Groupama Stadium, and that's where I want to start. So, incredible performance by the team. Maybe not perfect, but it was pretty damn close. We saw goals from Mbappé. He had two. We saw Asensio get on the board, and even Hakimi was able to score. So, let's start with Drew. What was your main takeaway from the match?
Watching the match today, it seemed like it was a progression from the previous match last week, with it being like the first match with Mbappé and Dembele starting. Even though Asensio didn't start this match compared to started last match and didn't start this match. But it seems like the cohesion of the team is really progressing these last 2 weeks with Mbappé starting and Dembele starting on either flank. And it looked a lot of harmonious play. It looks like the midfield trio is just, what we've always been waiting for over the last few years. It seems that their freedom of just knowing where to go and where to be placed in transition, out of transition, behind the ball. It seems like, whatever Enrique is doing in the training sessions midweek has really been paying off. And it's really a joy to see. It seemed like today was one of the best matches I've seen in probably 2 or 3 years in the league. So it was really good to see, especially away from home. It seems like, during the Poch era and the Galtier era, we really struggled away from home against the bigger clubs in France, Lyon, Monaco, Marseille, whoever it may be. It seems like we really struggled away from home in the last few years. And to see us have a big dominant victory away from home at Groupama Stadium was really good to see. And I was really happy to see, different kind of goals, counterattacking goals, recovery goals, some scrappy goals here and there. So it was really good to see all across the board.
You mentioned the midfield, and you had Vitinha, although he was more of like a winger. Ugarte, who I'm sure we're going to talk plenty about him. Zaïre-Emery, who was a little he got lost in this game, I thought. Maybe not his best performance, but you're right. The crisp passing, the counterattacking, it reminded you of Barcelona when Luis Enrique was there. I mean, the passing and the movement was really fluid, really exciting to watch. We haven't had that in a long time. Ethan, what was your main takeaway from the game? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Yeah, main takeaway. I think that last year, a lot of us would comment on the lack of technical superiority that we had over teams. I feel like today, obviously, it's still not perfect by any means, but it just felt like technically, we were making the dribbles that we had to. We were keeping the ball when we had to, making the runs when we had to. I feel like the players, ball control and dribbling for the most part was really, really good. So that was one thing that I took away. But I think the main takeaway would just be the overall cohesiveness, the level of teamwork that we were seeing. We just haven't seen in the past. Because, a lot of times during, like last year when we had Galtier as manager, he was known for his very good defensive records. And it just didn't work. Just whatever he was doing in training, whatever he was trying to communicate with the players, our defense was not good last year. So we're seeing, obviously today, we allowed a goal, and I think Lyon's XG was 2 something. But we're seeing improvements, which I think is the main thing. We don't need to be anywhere near our best in September. You don't win the Champions League in September, you win it in May. But overall the level of teamwork I think was really good. So obviously we'll keep improving, and also of course we're going to get into it, but just the level of depth that we have. I mean, you can make a quality starting 11 from the guys that we didn't play today if everyone was healthy. So those are my main thoughts.
Yeah, my main takeaway, Ugarte, just fantastic. He was the one who was able to win the duel there, pick the ball off of Tolisso and win the penalty, and Mbappe converted. I thought he was amazing. Dembele, I'm just going to start calling him the microwave. I mean, he's like instant offense. You get him the ball, he heats up immediately, and whatever he does, he's like creating offense and creating a chance. unfortunately, someone I think tweeted out that he's got a hat trick of almost goals. So we just need him to get it on frame there and score. But he's something to watch. He's fantastic. And Asensio is a player that I thought was like, okay, Asensio, whatever, getting a free transfer. What a player he's been turned out to be. I mean, he's really making the case to find a way to keep him on the pitch. I got a question for you guys about that. Ethan, you mentioned the defense, and Drew, we'll go back to you on this one. What do you make of PSG's defense? Donnarumma, several world-class saves. I thought it was one of his better games in a PSG shirt since he arrived. But it just doesn't feel like the back four are functioning as a unit yet. Do you place the blame on Marquinhos, who's the captain, who's the elder statesman on the defense there? Do you think maybe Danilo should come in and add some stability? What can be done to make that back four really function as a unit?
From what I noticed, it seems like how the system has been working now is that Hakimi has been pushing up and Lucas Hernandez has been staying back. So you kind of have a flat three across the back. And so it seems like it depends on what side of the ball the transition is on when our team is attacking us. But it seems like if one of the midfielders doesn't shuffle over, that it seems like on that side, Marquinhos kind of gets isolated, which kind of makes it look a little bit bad on his side, where the other side, Lucas Hernandez is to Skriniar's left. And so he has that cover. But on the other side, it seems like Hakimi's usually so far up the pitch that Marquinhos can get kind of isolated in certain situations. We saw that a couple of times today in the game in Lyon. But overall, I think that Skriniar was a question mark, but it seems like he's been solid enough. He doesn't quite have the pace as Marquinhos nor Danilo. But it seems like he seems to be in the right place at the right time, kind of like that Thiago Silva kind of role at times. He was a lot of times in the right place at the right time. I think just with, a little bit more games under the belt that the two of them might have a good pairing, but making a case for Danilo Pereira, the guy is just a soldier and a warrior. Every time he comes on the pitch, good things happen. So it seems like you could take the gamble and put Danilo in Marquinhos' place and see how it goes. I wouldn't be against that, but I guess that's just a decision with Enrique. With Hernandez, staying back, well, we see that when Nuno Mendes gets healthy. I don't believe so, because Nuno Mendes is a very attack-minded player. So will Enrique change that system as far as one fullback going up, one fullback staying behind when Nuno Mendes comes back? Is going to be the biggest thing. But right now, honestly, I like with what we're doing with Hernandez kind of staying further back and having three on the back line. It gives us a little bit more, solidity, especially with teams that have good attacking players. Lyon doesn't really have the attacking players that they once did. But with the groups that we're going to be playing against in the UCL, we're definitely going to need to have a good foundation of what we want to do on that back line. It seems like we haven't been leaking too many goals. It seems like all the goals that we've conceded this year have been kind of fluke penalties. But against the run of play, it seems like the back line has been doing enough. And I think we can accredit a lot of that to Manuel Ugarte.
Absolutely, yeah. And Ethan, is this a situation where maybe it's not functioning as a cohesive unit because the best four aren't there? You mentioned Drew said Nuno Mendes is coming back. So what do you do with a Lucas Hernandez? Where does he go? Does Marquinhos go to the bench so Danilo could come in? Does Mukiele, does he replace Hakimi as right back? I think that if there's a question to be asked about this squad, it is on the defense. So what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, there are going to be two of, because I'm just assuming that Nuno Mendes is going to play. He is going to be the starter at left back when he's back from injury. So that is going to put a couple of Lucas Hernandez, Skriniar, Danilo, or Marquinhos. Two of those guys are probably, I'm assuming that we're going to stick with the 4-3-3, because I just think that's what Enrique is kind of known for. That's what he's done for so long. I don't think he's going to deviate from that. So two of those guys will likely be on the bench at any given moment. So, but this is exactly what we've been wanting. We've been wanting depth. We've been wanting competition. We're seeing that in the attack as well. Not as much depth in the midfield compared to defense and attack, but I think we're in a real good spot there. We've got a young core that obviously, we've mentioned Ugarte has been super good, but I think it's definitely worth. I trust Luis Enrique. He knows football better than I do, of course. I've never won the Champions League at Barcelona, so I'm going to trust his decision on whatever he wants to do with, the two center backs that he's probably going to be playing most of the time. So it would be good that if he would switch it up. I was hoping that Danilo would come in today. I said on Twitter, like at the 60th minute, I said, I want to see these four guys get on the pitch, and all four of them did except for Danilo. But I think this competition is a good thing. I think it's been too long has it just been Marquinhos walking into the starting lineup, even if he's not having a good season, or you know what I'm getting at, and that's been the case for a lot of positions. So yeah. I'm embracing it. I think it's a good thing, especially because we really haven't spent. We've spent a lot of money this summer, but in relation to what we've saved from players, outbound players, it hasn't been a massive investment. Maybe after agent fees and all that, $100 million out of the club's pocket, I would guess. Just because I love finance, so I've been doing the math on that. But if we're going to spend a bit more now, so that we don't have to buy anyone for the next couple seasons, because we've got all this good depth, then I'm totally fine with it. So yeah, we've got this core, we've got this squad. This is a squad that, at its best, can win the Champions League. I think it's only 4 games in, but I think we know the talent of the players that are on the pitch, even the ones that are essentially been making their debut for us recently. We know it's on paper, it's a good enough team to win the Champions League. So just let Enrique cook, let's settle in with this group of players, and let's not try and make any drastic changes the next couple of years. And yeah, let these guys battle for their positions in training each day. So
I'm with you. Let's just keep things, stable. Even if we don't win the Champions League, it's okay. Let's keep the manager longer than, 15 minutes. Let's keep the squad together. Let's make small changes. But yeah, this team is really good. They should be able to compete. Let's move from the defense to the offense, because I mentioned Asensio earlier. He's really good at playing that sort of false nine. And I just wonder, with Randall Colomwani coming in, Drew, if you wanted to keep Asensio, could you drop him back and move Colomwani as a true striker, and then maybe just have an Ugarte or Zaïre-Emery in the midfield? Is that something you think Luis Enrique would entertain? I'm just trying to figure out how to keep Asensio on the pitch and also bring in our 100 million euro man, Colomwani. I mean, it's a lot of really good players. How can we get as many of them on the pitch at the same time,
Yeah, that's definitely something that is of concern, as he's come on board over the last couple of days, is where is he going to fit with Mbappé on one side, Dembele on the other side, and either you're going to put Gonzalo Ramos on the bench, most of us assume, but with Asensio's, not necessarily his progression, because he was good at Madrid, and I watched a lot of games, over the last few years when he was at Madrid, but it seems like his ability to pick out passes, make runs off the ball like a true 9, and, defend, because a lot of times in Madrid's system, when they had Zidane, they played on a 4-4-2. He's used to playing a little bit further back in the midfield, but still making, those transitional runs in towards the box. And to have, Warren, Zaïre-Emery, and Ugarte playing as a double pivot in the midfield, and then having one a little bit higher up, which could be Asensio if you put in Colomwani, would be something that would be really good. I'm sure he would do the defensive work that would be, necessary. And, he's not too far off of the style of Vitinha. Vitinha is obviously a little bit more defensive. But going forward, Asensio is leaps and bounds ahead of, Vitinha, because it's two different styles of player. I would be 100% for that. I think it kind of depends on the game and the team that we're playing against, whether they have, really stout midfield 3, or if it's a Champions League game where you don't want to kind of, give up that midfield where you can, put in another strong box-to-box midfielder. So I think it kind of depends on the team that you're playing, the situation that you're in. It could be, one of those super sub situations where you drop, Warren, Zaïre-Emery, and Ugarte as the two holding midfielders, and then have Asensio going forward in maybe the last 20 minutes of a match where you need to look for another scrappy goal and have 4 players going forward. But it seems like with his goal scoring ability, and it seems like his connection with Mbappe is picked up right off the go. I was a little scared and hesitant when we got him. I thought, maybe is this like the second coming of Pablo Sarabia? Just a Spanish kind of attacking midfielder player. Nothing towards Pablo Sarabia. He did his job, at times, but I was kind of scared, was this kind of a waste of a transfer, even though it was a free? But it seems like it's been, good so far. With Colomwani is a very versatile player. I didn't really see much of him at Nantes a couple years ago before he transferred to the Bundesliga, but watching him play, this winter for France when he would come in and seeing, a lot of his highlights at Eintracht Frankfurt, he's a really pacey player. So I think with the three of them, Mbappe, Dembele, and Colomwani going forward, that's a nightmare for a lot of defenders. You have players like Dembele who can, switch, their method of attack, left, right, left, turn a defender either way really quick on the stop of a dime. And Colomwani, kind of playing in that middle, but still kind of coming out wide. And same thing with Kylian. I think it's going to be really good to see. And at the same time, we all know that they play for the national team. So with them playing day in, day out, for the national team and the club team, I think, come mid-season, if we all hope Kylian stays, that their progression of just playing alongside each other will really, really take off. And it should be something that could be really, fruitful for the team.
Excellent takes. And one thing that I noticed with the attack, Ethan, is just the speed. And to Drew's point about Colomwani coming in, he's got speed and spades, right? It felt like during this game, and we all know Lyon are bottom of the table. Their manager, Laurent Blanc's probably getting terminated in the morning. He's getting sacked. It seemed like in the midfield, it'd be a 1-2 pass, and then boom, there was acres of space, and either Dembele or Mbappe or Asensio was just sprinting through the midfield and into the final third. And that's just something I think for other teams that's very difficult for them to stop. You can't coach speed. You either have it or you don't. And PSG, boy, do they have it. I was wondering if you could talk about that aspect. And then maybe if you want to touch on Mbappe, just playing with a joy again. And if you want to touch on Barcola, who came in the 75th minute, I think it was, and he showed some good signs that, again, speed once again.
Yeah, my main takeaway from that, and building off what Drew said, I think it's just going to be, I know that I'm a big Gonzalo Ramos guy. I think he's going to be great for us. He started off slow, we've seen, obviously, and now we're even adding Colomwani into the mix, so his playing time could take a hit, but I think it's just what we were referencing earlier. I think it's strength and diversity. So we're going to have a guy like Gonzalo Ramos. He's solid in the air. Not that Colomwani isn't, but he's just a very different profile. That's pretty clear. So it's just going to be, I'm very, very interested. And what I'm most looking forward to for the next month or two is seeing, when we're playing Dortmund versus when we're playing just like an average Liga team. I want to see how Luis Enrique is going to set up the team differently. How is he going to want to play during, big Champions League matches compared to these scrappy, we're going to be facing scrappy low block teams in Liga. It's just, I'm very curious to see how, because we haven't had this kind of diversity in attack for such a long time. And so it's, I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be really cool just because right now, we really can't, we've got a lot of guys out right now, but in a month or a couple weeks when just about everyone's healthy, we're not going to have any idea what the starting lineup is. Well, there's going to be 6 spots, honestly, that are going to be up for contention every game. And it's just going to be like anyone's guess on who Enrique is going to be playing. I'm not a great tactical guy, admittedly, but so some people have better guesses than me. But it's just strength and diversity. So, and I think it is big, like you were saying, with Mbappe. It does look like he's really enjoying himself again. I think this is I think the club did what he kind of would have expected or would have asked for if he wanted to stay past this year. I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, obviously, we're still waiting. I know, Ed, you put on Twitter, I think right at full time, that you want to see an Mbappe extension over the international break.
Yeah, why not?
I totally agree. It's just, we got to get that done. I still don't like that we didn't have it done before the window ended. But, obviously I'm not sitting there. I'm not Nasser. I'm not Campos. I'm not Luis Enrique. So they know what's actually going on. To us, we're all just kind of speculating for the most part. But, it is. I want to see him get locked down for a while. Or if it's just going to be that kind of thing where we're going to set a gentleman's agreement for a release clause in his, in an extension so that he's going to be gone in a year or two or whenever he wants. then at least we've got that core. We've got Arcam. We're gonna have Ramos, Dembele, Javi Simon's coming back next year. We'll have Barcola, and then like you guys have touched on, just exactly what Drew was saying. Where I thought Asensio would be kind of an signing. He has really surprised me, and I didn't watch him a lot at Madrid, so I didn't know what to expect. I was kind of just my expectations were built off of what other people were saying. So I didn't have I didn't know what to expect from him, but it's been surprisingly good. I'm really liking his profile and what he's doing so far. So yeah, that's good. And then I am curious how Barcola is going to fit into the team. I mean, yeah, you guys have touched on it, but it's just almost like we've almost got too many options in attack. So I'm sure someone will get hurt at some point. I mean, we know Dembele's
could never have too many options, as we've learned.
Good point. I mean, unless you're spending $1 billion on all those guys, but yeah, we're not breaking the bank. We're not spending hardly any more than all these other Champions League contenders. So
Chelsea.
Well, yeah, Chelsea spent. Yeah,
we were saying Champions League contenders.
League. Yeah, I said Champions League. But no, you're totally right. Yeah, we're not. Our net spend hasn't been bad. Our wage bill is going to be down a bunch this year once we got a couple more guys going out to Saudi League, and this is really just the most well-rounded that we've been in a while. So interesting to see what Barcola is going to be able to do. I'm just guessing he'll probably be a signing for the future. But yeah, I don't know. Really interesting. I don't know enough about Barcola to have a true opinion on him, but we've got plenty of options in attack now, which is obviously a good thing.
I saw the club posted he's the 500th player in PSG's history to play in an official match, so he's got that to his credit. I'm sure he would prefer a trophy, and he was getting whistled at, and I thought that was funny that the Lyon fans were whistling at him, and it's like, it was your club that agreed to sell him there. Like, they took the money from PSG, so I don't know why they would be upset with him. So that was a little bit strange, but I think if I could sum up your guys, what I'm hearing and just seeing on Twitter, it's almost like that LeBron James meme, like, I can't believe this is my life. Like, we've been wanting this for so long. We've wanted depth. We wanted scoring goals. We wanted a competent manager. We wanted a happy Kylian Mbappé, and we wanted more French players. Everything we wanted, we got in one summer. It's truly incredible. I can't believe this is our life right now, that we get to actually watch an entertaining team scoring goals, playing well. It's very exciting. I guess I can just go around one more before we get to the next topic. Drew, any last thoughts on PSG's win over Lyon?
No, I was really excited to see us play. It seems like we just came out lights out, from the get-go. And it's just like you said, it's really fun to see. We went from, a lot of negativity, 2.5 months ago to, just flying on the top of the world. And we're not even on top of the league right now, so only more better days to come here in the league, and look forward to just more cohesion and more goals and a better team.
For sure. Ethan, any final thoughts on the win over Lyon?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that LeBron meme. I posted that right when we signed to RKM, I think. I said, man, the options that we've got in attack, and I think I tweeted that exact same meme. I can't believe this is my life, whatever. It's really great to have these options. And then lastly, we didn't touch on him a bunch just because, we've got limited time, but just once again, another shout out to the Uruguayan Manuel Ugarte. That
Definitely.
man is probably the most important player in the whole squad right now. I know a couple people have said that. I know Carl Oscar, who I think has been on the podcast before, at least you've interacted with him a lot. Mm-hmm. He was saying that same thing.
We need to protect him at all costs.
Yeah, for real. I mean, he's that ball-winning six that we've just needed for so long, and he instantly just makes our defense probably twice as good. And we know that the defense is where you win titles. So, and on top of that, he's bagging assists today. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that ball is nice.
Yeah, it was so nice. Yeah. There's not enough words to describe how good he has been so far. I was predicting when we signed him, I was like, this is going to be our most important signing this summer. Probably not the most flashy, not the most expensive. But if we win the Champions League, I think it's going to be a large part due to him. So, yeah, loving him so far.
And I guess my last thought is I'll just go over to Lyon. As nice as it was to beat them 4-1, Lyon are one of the storied clubs in French football. We need them to be a little bit better than last place. Like, can we get at least to mid-table, if not, pushing PSG? We need more competition. They need to get their business sorted out. And that's a club that is just a factory for young players coming through. And it seems like they've stalled a little bit. So they need to just play better. But overall for PSG, I think we summed it up. Ugarte, incredible. Hernandez, as advertised, even though I was a little skeptical. I even thought Vitinha, his final decision isn't great, but he's getting in the right areas. He's getting into the spaces where he can either create for someone else or fire off a shot, but he just doesn't seem to get that last piece that he needs. But he's going to get there, and I think he's working with a new midfield and new attackers. So hopefully with time that'll get there. And Hakimi got a goal and he looked a little bit better than the first few matches. So I guess that's an improvement. So overall, PSG, well done, 4-1. They are, let me look at the table here. They are in second place behind Monaco. So, and Marseille are in third. So should be a fun league on season. Let's keep it moving because I want to talk about the Champions League draw, which was last Thursday. And we had pieces up from Jonathan Johnson talking about this is a dream scenario. This is a nightmare scenario. And I'm pretty sure PSG got his nightmare scenario because, of course, they would. So in Group F, PSG drew Dortmund, AC Milan, and Newcastle. And here in the United States, we were watching on CBS, the Galazzo. They had the draw televised. And afterwards, I think all of their pundits picked PSG not to advance, which I thought was comical. We'll start with you, Drew. What was your initial reaction to the draw? Is it what you expected? Are you excited? Are you fearful? What kind of emotions are you having about this draw?
Yeah, I was watching it in my office the other day, and with the French league coefficient, and with us only having the first two automatically go through, we're always going to get how you want to say a not so favorable draw. We're always going to go against, a good team from England, a good team usually from Germany, and maybe from Spain or etc. So, we usually have at least one heavy hitter in our group, no matter what, which is usually good. I was excited that we got Dortmund, one, because of, all the drama that happened back in 2020 when our friend Erling Haaland was there and, their Twitter page wanted to talk a lot of mess and this, that, and the other. So I'm excited to see us play Dortmund once again. Newcastle is the one I'm really excited about. There's been a lot of hype around Newcastle. They had a really good year last year. This year, they haven't started so well. I watched them play the week prior against Liverpool, and they were up 10 men with a goal in hand and still lost against Liverpool. So, granted, they're a very open team. And it seems like if you have a team that plays very open, that can play into our advantage. Bringing up the points that, you're bringing up, Ethan, with the pace of our front line with Colomwani, Dembele, and Mbappe. You leave space in behind, you're going to get punished. It doesn't matter what team it is. You have, lethal strikers like that, and you're playing a fast-paced game with a lot of transition to play. I think that's one team that I was really excited because, teams that are a little bit more defensive-minded, we can struggle against. UCL is already tough enough, but when you have a team that's a little bit more open and attacking, it can only play into a team like ours' advantage. Milan, to me, is going to be the toughest group opponent. Rafael Leao is a top-class striker. Our American friend Christian Pulisic is, moved to Italy, and it seems like he's been scoring goals a lot over there. San Siro is going to be a tough place to play along with Dortmund. But I think overall, they're going to be our toughest challenge. Was listening to a lot of English commentary throughout the week after the draw was made. And the big thing that they're talking about with Newcastle is that a lot of those players, they lack the experience of Champions League. And that's something that you can't buy. You can only get from just playing in the tournament itself. So I think that will give a lot of our players an advantage. Mbappe, Dembele, Marquinhos, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these players are seasoned Champions League players where Newcastle, they don't really have that. The Premier League is one thing, but Champions League is a whole nother beast on itself. And Dortmund is not the team that they were. Erling Haaland is not there. They lost Bellingham to Madrid. They're a mid-table Bundesliga team right now. Not to underestimate them because we know how hard the Champions League is, and even in the group stage. And Dortmund Signal Iduna Park is a tough place to play away. 80,000 fans is formidable. But as far as threat going forward, I'm not too concerned about Dortmund. And it looks like our defense is a lot more sturdy this year than it was in the years past. It's going to be a really good group stage. I think if we could take care of business at home and the 3 matches at home, and granted you maybe draw 1 game away or 2 games away, that's still you're sitting at enough points to go through. I think it's really going to come down to who's going to be the second place team. You hope that we're not, because you're going to play a top team from another group that's going to be the winner. Usually what happens, we get a top draw in the round of 16. But I'm really excited. I think it's a blessing in disguise, because it seems like League One teams have kind of dropped as far as their level of play. You look at Lyon today. Marseille's not the same team that they were last year. Lens is clearly not. They've lost a lot of players. Luis Openda, Fofana. Monaco seems to be like our top component, or competitor this year in League One. So I think having a tougher group stage this year will be a blessing in disguise, because it can only prepare us for the round of 16. It seems like we kind of always have a little bit of a cakewalk through the group stage, and then we get to the round of 16, and it seems like we're not prepared psychologically. We usually have random injuries, i.e. Neymar. But it seems like this year having a tough group can really help us. It can really show what Enrique wants to do against a top team. Bringing up, what you were talking about earlier, Ethan, on formations against a more of a tougher team. So I think having a tougher group is just going to be a blessing to us. And not only that, it's going to bring on some good football matches. I'm thinking about maybe catching a flight and flying over there to visit a friend who lives in Holland, and try to go to one of the games over there in November or December. So I'm really excited to see what we're going to do. The first game is just a couple of weeks away against Dortmund. So it's going to be a good challenge to see where this team really stacks up against top European opposition.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it. Dortmund is that first match later this month after the international break. And yeah, Ethan, just looking at the draw and everything, 6 matches. There's no cakewalk here. As Drew mentioned, there's no Bruges, there's no Maccabi Haifa, there's no Istanbul. So every game you got to get up. And I wrote a piece over on our Substack about how this is actually a blessing in disguise. Kind of what Drew was saying is that we're going to find out real quick which of these new signings are up for the challenge and which ones aren't. There's going to be no hiding. There's going to be high pressure. There's going to be high expectations. It's no guarantee you're getting out of this group stage and advancing on. So we're going to learn a lot about these new players coming in, and a lot about Luis Enrique as a manager and his tactics. So I'm really looking forward to it. What do you say about the draw?
Yeah, I think we're going to find out who's, as the youth say, who's got that dog in him. I think just how you guys said, I do think it's a good thing that we got this tough group. I know a lot of people, as soon as we drew Dortmund, everyone was like, all right, and then we drew Milan, and people were like, okay, getting a little nervous. And then when we drew Newcastle, some people just went into panic mode, and I don't understand that at all. Just like how Drew was saying, Dortmund, the Bundesliga is a league that plays very open. They play, I haven't watched a bunch of Dortmund this year, but they'll probably continue to just be like that. They play real open. They play real attacking. And like Drew said, Newcastle's the same way. So I'm not super worried. If our defense is solid, then we'll be fine. But they are good enough teams to where it's like if we don't make it out of the group, we didn't deserve to win it. So that's fine. But I'll never shy away from a competition. I want as tough a group as possible because, yeah, like you guys have said, it's clear that the level of the European teams in Liga recently it just has not been ideal. The mid-table is proven to be very strong in France, but those aren't the teams that we're playing in the Champions League. And it's another step up, a step or two up from those kind of teams like Nantes, who barely avoided relegation, but they were in the Europa League knockout round. And, Lyon, who finished 7th a couple years ago, but they beat Man City in the Champions League quarterfinals. Those are great teams. They're good teams, but it's a step up when we're facing, these actual other Champions League teams, and any team from this group could be in the last 16. And if they make it, it would be deserved. They would have deserved it. So I do appreciate the challenge. We don't have the toughest slate of Liga games before these Champions League fixtures, so we should be able to rotate if Enrique sees fit. But I'm still projecting that we're going to top our group. But just because, like you guys were saying, I think AC Milan will be the toughest team for us, just on paper, the way that they play. I think it'll be a good challenge. I still predict them to finish third in the group, with behind Newcastle. But I just think that's because Newcastle, even though they do lack experience, like you guys stated, I think they'll probably find a way to win those games against the other two teams. So, but you guys are right. If we win our home games and we can get say a win and a draw, one draw, one win, one loss away in the group, then we've almost certainly won it. So, yeah, I'm feeling good about it. I appreciate that it's a tough group, but I see us going through. Enrique is obviously a seasoned Champions League manager, and yeah, we're gonna, I trust his judgment. He's gonna put out the best team. It's gonna give us a chance to win against these quality opponents. I don't think we'd say any of these teams are. I've basically got 6 teams that probably have a realistic chance of winning the Champions League this year, us being one of them. So that's kind of tier 1. But I'd put all these guys in tier 2. They could be dark horses if they really have they figure their stuff out. So, yeah, gonna be good matchups. And yeah, we have experienced too easy of a time in the group stage some years. So, yeah, if this prepares us for the last 16, then great. If we don't make it out of the group, we know that we didn't deserve to be there. So either way, yeah, I agree with you guys. Blessing in disguise for us.
Yeah, it's going to be great. One thing to keep an eye on is Lens over in Group B, just for the coefficient to keep Ligue 1 as one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. We really need them to do well and hopefully advance. Otherwise, I think PSV and then the Eredivisie would take over that spot. So we really need them to do well. So root for our fellow Liga team there. I think I'm looking forward to, you've got Donnarumma returning to AC Milan. That should be entertaining. We mentioned the yellow wall and the banter on social media against Dortmund. I don't think Dortmund is very good, but I think Dortmund away can be very daunting no matter who they put out there in their starting 11. Newcastle, did I see something? They haven't been in the Champions League for 20 years or something like that. I mean, that crowd is going to be amped up for when PSG roll in there for a big Champions League night. So that could be daunting. Every away match is going to be a challenge, and I'm just looking forward to it. I don't know what's going to happen. I think we'll advance, but it is going to be so entertaining, so much fun to watch. And, for PSG fans, we usually wait to the second half of the season. That's what we call the business end. That's when things really start to pick up. We get into the knockout stage. Not the case this season. We've got all these new signings, and we're hitting the ground running against Dortmund, Milan, and Newcastle. So it's going to be very, very exciting. I think I agree with all of you. AC Milan is going to be the biggest test. It's going to be very hyped up here in the U.S. because they've got Christian Pulisic on the U.S. men's national team. He'll be probably starting for AC Milan, I think. So keep an eye on that. Should be good. Guys, I want to wrap up the show with a couple of quotes and just get your reaction to them. We're going to get to Neymar's recent quotes, but before that, I want to get to Lucas Hernandez's quote. And he said, quote, "This is the biggest challenge of my career," talking about coming to PSG. "It was time to change, to go to a very ambitious club like PSG and to create history. I hope to be able to go down in the history of this club." Drew, how does that make you feel as a PSG fan? And how do you think that makes Bayern Munich fans feel?
Hearing that, I think it's something that a lot of French players have. Everybody knows the French league isn't up to par when it comes to money and TV rights compared to the Spanish league, the English league. And I think with Hernandez coming from Bayern to here and not really having the World Cup that he wanted, I think it kind of reset his mindset. I think that's had a lot to do with it. And it's good to see that he has the right motivation for the club at the moment.
I think Drew may have froze. Okay, he dropped off. Okay, pick it up from there. Ethan, what do you have to say about Lucas Hernandez's quote?
Yeah, I think it's interesting from Lucas Hernandez. I don't anticipate that Bayern fans will like that. Obviously, just as I feel like any time that a former player talks about their new team or their past experiences in not even not a negative light, but not a positive light, then the last team's fans probably won't like it. But um, I think it's interesting. I think it's pretty clear that this is the mentality that a lot of us fans have had, where it's, okay, yeah, you could go to Real Madrid and you could become their 1000th legend. You could be the 600th person that they've got a statue of, sort of a thing. I know they don't actually have statues of that many people, but you could become just another legend over there, or you could. I mean, it's clearly tough. We've only had 3 teams in the past 30 years that are first-time Champions League winners. We've got Porto, Chelsea, and Man City, I think, is it. It's clearly tough to win the Champions League at a club that's never done it. I don't care about how the influence or the not exaggeration, but there's more, like, money is far more important in football the past 20 years than it was before. The Bosman ruling in '96 made it, it really helped the status quo of clubs that were good then are going to remain good now, sort of a thing. We've hardly ever seen teams drop off. So there is really the status quo around football. And if you're a club that's never won the Champions League, it's very difficult to do so. We saw how long it took Man City, despite all the money they spent. We still haven't won it, despite a lot of money that we've spent. Chelsea have done it twice, but it took them a long time. They choked away a final in, I think, 2008 or so. And then the Porto one was just miraculous. But I think us fans will really appreciate that he said that. It's clearly a tough challenge to break through that wall. So, yeah, and I know it would just be so cool if we won the Champions League with a big influence from, the French national team. We've got 4 guys that are not automatic starters, but we've got 4 guys, including our front 3, that are French national team starters when healthy. So, yeah, just this French project at PSG, it's what neutrals have been saying we need to do for forever. And then this quote from Lucas Hernandez does kind of resonate with what a lot of us fans have said for so long. So I do want to know, what are your thoughts on it, though? Did you have something that I kind of didn't touch on?
Yeah, I think it is the biggest challenge of his career. He's coming off that knee injury in the World Cup. So anytime you're coming back from that type of injury, I think it is going to be the biggest challenge of your career. So I think he's got that in the back of his mind. That's partly why he said it. I also think he's saying all the right things. We know when he was, that transfer rumor started, a lot of the PSG ultras weren't too happy about it being Marseille-born, Lucas Hernandez, that is. So maybe this is also a way of him kind of saying the right things and trying to curry favor with the ultras and get on their good side. It's certainly possible. But I think a lot of what you said is correct. PSG is very ambitious and he wants to create history. And I think maybe that is why Mbappé hasn't left for Real Madrid. He could have gone there at any point, probably in the last 10 years or so, and he hasn't. And I think he understands doing it and it being winning the Champions League at PSG is way more important to a legacy than at Real Madrid, where it's been done 14 times. You go there, it's pressure, it's great. Everything that comes with being a Real Madrid player. But the one thing they can't give you is winning the first Champions League trophy in club history. That's something they can't give. And I think that is very enticing to Mbappe and Lucas Hernandez. So I love this quote. I love that he is ambitious. And we'll get to the second quote in a while and kind of hinting at that. Some people may not enjoy the pressure and may not enjoy being at PSG. It certainly feels like Lucas Hernandez does appreciate being at PSG and wants to do well. So those are my thoughts on that. So should we get to wrap up the show, get to our friend Neymar, who is a current Al Hilal player. And actually, we should probably just say unfortunately we've lost Drew here. I think his computer died, so if you don't hear his voice, that is why. But we're hopefully, if we could bring him back to close out the show, great. But if not, we'll have to get him on another show. But yeah, mid thought there, his computer crapped out on us, so we lost one. But Ethan is still standing. So let's get your thoughts on Neymar's quote. So he said, "I was very happy for the year Leo Messi had, but at the same time, very sad because he lived both sides of the coin. He went to heaven with the Argentina national team. He won everything in recent years. And with Paris, he lived in hell. We lived through hell, both he and I." Let's just take a moment of silence here for those two multi-millionaires. Living in hell in one of the best cities in the world. As a professional footballer, Ethan, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, especially for a club that's always in the Champions League, you always have the chance to win the most prestigious annual trophy in sports. I'm not going to take it hard what they said, but it is funny, the whole living in hell. It's like, yeah, a lot of these ultras, not even the majority of ultras, because I tried to say this when all that news came out in April and May. The people that are going to Neymar's house and they're verbally insulting these two guys, that's not the majority of fans. I get that, the average PSG fan doesn't have a bunch of love for Messi. It's just his work rate wasn't great. He wasn't the player that we needed. But I also don't fault him too much just because our management was fairly poor when we brought him in. We still had Leonardo. Nasser is a mixed bag when it comes to, sometimes he's phenomenal, sometimes he's absolutely in the gutter. So he's a real mixed bag. So as far as the whole living in hell thing was a bit extreme, but the pressure of PSG and people, if you're not a PSG fan, you hear me say this. I'm not saying that PSG is the greatest club in the world. They're the greatest club to me. They're the only club I care about. I don't care that we've never won the Champions League. That's not why I chose to be a fan, because of our trophy cabinet. I chose it because, I'm French American and all my family comes from Paris and I speak the language and I love the club and I love the culture.
Don't you know they don't have any history?
Dude, we do. We do have history. Just look up on Wikipedia. But even if we actually didn't have any history, we don't care. That's not where our fandom comes from. Our fandom does not stem from silverware behind a frickin' plate of glass. So it's the pressure of, but what I was getting to, and this isn't a knock on anyone, the pressure of PSG is not for everyone. It wasn't for Christophe Galtier. It wasn't for Pochettino, although I used to be a big Pochettino hater, but we did not set him up for success. It's just not for everyone. And I think that a lot of these French guys, they understand what it means. They get it. So they're a little more in tune to what it's going to be like to play there and the pressure that's going to be there. But I just get it. Like, players thrive when they feel comfortable and they enjoy where they're at. And those guys, some fans had a part to do with it, of course. But for whatever reason, and it's not they're South American thing. I know some people have said that. Thiago Silva, Rai, we've had so many good South American players. Like, I'd say Rai is probably, he was only PSG 5 years in the 90s, but he probably had the best prime of any PSG player ever. So if you want to say off of prime, he's our greatest ever player, then, the GOAT for PSG is a Brazilian. So I don't think you can say that it's, South American players won't do well there, or that, I've seen some people even claim that our fans don't like South Americans. It's nowhere true. It's obviously false. So they're just grasping at straws, but I just go back to the culture of everything. I get it's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to love it. Messi he became the greatest of all time because he loved it in Barcelona. It had everything he wanted. Everything was how he envisioned, playing football, and PSG is just not the same. So, I don't blame him. Obviously it's, I don't take it personally either. I think a lot of us will hear that and we'll get all upset being like, oh, you're not what we wanted anyway, kind of a thing. Or we were living through hell watching you play. I've seen some people say that, but that's not the case. I don't think they meant it too personal, but it's not for everyone. This is a weird club. Paris Saint-Germain is a weird club to support. It's a weird club. There's the only kind of club like it out there is Bayern Munich, I think, if you just look at a lot of factors, just the domestic league, the Hollywood FC reputation. And you look at Bayern, majority German players. They know what it's like to carry German legacy through their club. And I think that the fact that we have a little more French influence on the team now, I think is going to help us kind of do the same. So that's my take on it. I feel like you've typically got more outspoken opinions on these things. So let's hear what you're thinking.
Yeah. What can we say about Neymar? I mean, just in general, just because Messi can't stop talking about how he was miserable here and he didn't want to be here, and now Neymar's doing the same. Just in general, like you're at different clubs now. This chapter is closed. If someone asks you about your time at PSG, I had a great time. I really enjoyed my time there and met some really good friends, and we didn't achieve all of our goals, but it was a good time. I look back on it fondly. That's it. You don't even need to probably say that much.
Yeah.
When you start taking shots at your former club, I think it says a lot more about you than the club. And it's also funny that both of them, I don't think, follow PSG on Instagram anymore, which I know is a silly metric. But the fact that both of them still follow their former club, Barcelona, but not PSG, I think that says a lot about their tenure here at PSG. What you said about PSG not being for everyone is a great point. I think Messi, he had nowhere else to go. He wasn't going to reduce his wages. No one else could pay it, really. PSG were the only ones. So he came here to basically prep for the World Cup, which he won. And then that was it. He wasn't ever here for PSG. And then he's getting upset because he's getting whistled at for walking around in a Champions League game. I don't know why he then has to take a shot. Like, you know what you did. You know that you didn't give your all, that your heart wasn't into performing at this club that was paying you very well. So, like, why are you taking shots? Like, you're just as much to blame for the fractured relationship, right? Like, PSG didn't tell you to go to Saudi Arabia and be an Instagram influencer and skip training. You did that on your own. But then everyone wants to point at PSG like they're the bad guys. I think both of them made choices that benefited them, not necessarily PSG. And then they ultimately have gone in separate directions away from PSG. And now they want to take shots at PSG. And only thing that the club is guilty of is paying them handsomely, giving them opportunities to win the Champions League, surrounding them with world-class talent. What did PSG ever do that was bad towards either one of them to deserve these sort of comments? Living in hell? Are you serious? And that's kind of my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, obviously we have gone over the using the word hell is definitely extreme.
If he was living in hell, didn't he sign a new contract with us?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's. I mean, you can definitely argue that we never gave them the best opportunities to succeed and all that, and you can argue
gave him
that.
Kylian Mbappé, Marco Verratti.
No, I know. Like, they did have a great team, but I do want to touch on the point real quick before we get out of here. What you said. That, what did the club ever do to them? And you can argue, some fans did stuff. Obviously, the club really never, from what we publicly know, the club never treated them unfairly. I feel like if the club had done something, if Nasser had, done something truly vile to one of them, that we would be hearing about it because Nasser's a controversial person. But since those things aren't coming out, we have to assume, at least for now, that they didn't happen. So, and you look at that, and some people say that, PSG is a soulless club and, history and all that. That's just, that's not the case for most players that play here. You have so many players. I mean, there is this great, I wish I could remember their name. I think their tag on Instagram is Verratti, but that first E is a 3, something like that. Mm-hmm. Whoever that is that runs that account, they're always posting these just phenomenal quotes that former PSG players have said about the club. What Angel Di Maria has said about the club, how that club reunited his passion for football. What Rai has said, what Safet Susic, PSG legend from the 80s and early 90s, has said. And you look at those quotes and you're thinking, it's not just a thing that, Messi and Neymar and whoever else that doesn't like the club, it's not like they're the vast majority. So many guys that play here absolutely loved their time at Paris Saint-Germain. And that is people of all walks of life. That is people of all races, nationalities, coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So it's not just this thing that, oh, you're not French, you're going to hate it at PSG, or, if you beat France in a World Cup final, you're going to hate it at PSG. I'm trying to think of the 98 final. I think actually for the 94 World Cup final, Rai was the captain for Brazil for a lot of that. And I think they won that. And then in 98, if I remember right, I think he was still in the squad. They lost to France in the final at the Stade de France across town in Paris. Did you see him bad-mouthing France or PSG, who had a lot of players in that team, a couple players in that team, after losing in a World Cup final? You didn't see that from these guys. So I just do want to point out that this idea that players that didn't grow up loving PSG can't learn to love them is just completely false. And so many of our legends truly loved playing for the club and had a phenomenal time playing for Paris Saint-Germain. A lot of them not even hardly playing in the Champions League. Guys like Pauleta, who was Portuguese in the mid-2000s, I think he played in the Champions League group stage one time with PSG. As far as one season is what I'm referring to. And that guy is absolutely loved by everybody. And so I just do want to point that out is look at what these past legends have said for Paris Saint-Germain. Talk about, or look at what they've said about what PSG DNA is. I know that people who hate us joke that PSG DNA is choking Champions League matches, but which is funny. I do think that's just a funny way to say that. But recently, you could argue that, oh yeah, we have not been a clutch team in the Champions League recently. But if you think that's what PSG DNA is throughout the course of this club's history, going back to 1970, or if you're of my opinion, the club was founded in 1904 in Saint-Germain, the club originally being Stade Saint-Germain, their headquarters being at the old training center that we moved away from this last year. Just look at what all these past legends have said about the club, and you'll see that there is a lot of love for this club. Just because, the two of the three most high-profile players ever, in the social media era, Messi and Neymar, didn't like the club, doesn't mean that we're universally hated. It doesn't mean that we're automatically an evil club. You can think we're an evil club, and you can consider us the bad guys of football, but deep down, you have to know that it's not like we're despised by everyone. So think of us as the bad guys, whatever. We can be the evil empire in your eyes, and someday we'll win the Champions League and it'll make you all upset. But deep down, there is so much love in this club that outsiders they never see it because they don't care to really learn. So just wanted to say that as a final word.
Those are great points. I think when PSG do win the Champions League, I think that's when I'll shut the website down. Mission accomplished. It'll be a party. No feeling will ever be better than that. So we'll throw that out there. But also, I wanted to mention, David Beckham, who is part owner of Inter Miami. He has great things to say about his short time at PSG. Yeah. We saw Zlatan getting teared up when he had his farewell. Maxwell is always involved with the club. Ronaldinho, great things to say about the club. So to just echo your point, and coming across the Twitter wires here, I just wanted to mention another quote here from Luis Enrique, because he was asked about Neymar's comments. And so he said, quote, "Neymar's statements that he and Messi's time here were like hell. These are personal experiences. I don't want to get into that. I could tell you about my experience. I'm absolutely delighted. I feel like I'm in charge of a rather unique team with a club that trusts me 100%. That is a man who's had media training. That's exactly, you dismiss it, you focus on yourself, you keep it moving. As I said when we started this topic, I think what Neymar and Messi are saying about PSG says more about themselves and how they conducted themselves at PSG than the club itself. So we did get Drew. We did get Drew to come back in. And as I said, we spent too much time. I do want to get his thoughts now that he's rebooted back up. Drew, if you can hear me, give us a thumbs up.
Loud and clear, Ed.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll let you have the final say. What do you have to say about his comments that he and Messi were living in hell?
I thought it was a little bit distasteful. Neymar's really never spoken negatively about the club, in general, and like in interviews. And it seemed like, with his exit from the club, it seemed very mutual on both parties' side. But for him to go as far as say that he was living in hell after, being at the club for 6 years and having good moments and bad moments, it seemed a little out of place. I think it might be kind of a strike towards him actually maybe kind of wanting to stay, but, the whole situation with Mbappe kind of, a lot of us assume that he was kind of playing the cards behind the scenes, asking the club to, sell Neymar per se. I think Neymar seems kind of like a little hard done in that situation. He kind of maybe wanted to stay in Europe and not want to move to Saudi Arabia. Life is really different there compared to, a lot of, westernized countries. But I thought it was a little low. I think he may feel like his level of play isn't, so far down that he has to, play in a not so competitive league, i.e. the Saudi league. But I think it was more just, just to show that he was still, had some say of the whole situation. And that he more or less wanted to leave, not the club selling him to the Saudi club that he went to. I thought it was just a little distasteful in general. Messi's comments were kind of a little bit more accepting because we all know he would have stayed at Barcelona if he could have. But their financial situation just didn't allow them to, re-sign him. But with Neymar, he asked to come to the club in 2017. So the decision was all on him. We all make bad decisions. Me not plugging in my computer during the podcast was a bad decision. But I think it was more like he kind of wanted to show, that, I left because, it was a bad situation. I wasn't happy there. This is why I left, not the club selling him because he was consistently injured, not, playing to the standard that we all know he could have played. Something that I was reading on Instagram earlier, someone posted something that I noticed a long time ago is that, the whole time he was there, he only scored two knockout goals, out of the whole 6 years. A lot of the years he wasn't there because of, injury. You can't, predict when someone's getting injured, but the games he was there, he only scored two knockout goals. Presnel Kimpembe has half as many knockout goals as Neymar, and he's a central defender.
How much did we pay for those 2 goals? If you look at his salary, what
exactly.
Is that? Ethan, you're the financial guru. How much did we pay per knockout stage goal?
Yeah, so it was a little, kind of a shot. And, a lot of players take that shot at PSG because of, Brazilians and a lot of South Americans. Life in France is a lot different than life in Brazil or Argentina or, a lot of other places. I think, my final opinion on it is that he never really embraced life in France. And you can tell by, his unwillingness to learn French compared to someone who, was at the club, who was a fellow Brazilian, say Lucas Moura, Marquinhos, David Luiz, Thiago Silva, that showed a lot, right off the bat. After year 2, 3 of him being at the club and never speaking French, it just showed how vested he was compared to somebody else. And then now that he's gone, I just wasn't surprised that he took that shot when he was given, that shot to say what he said towards the club. And, a lot of people like myself and you guys could probably agree, no hard feelings, but, you had your chance. You didn't, live up to what we all expected him to do. And, good luck in Saudi Arabia. I seriously doubt he'll ever play in Europe again. And even, when it goes to, his place in the Brazilian national team, is really up for jeopardy. I'm sure he'll probably get called up for maybe the next World Cup, but is he going to be a starter? I doubt that over Vinicius Jr. or Rodrigo or anybody else that Brazil has on their attacking line. But it was just distasteful. Good riddance. You saw what the Ultras put last week at the park, and it's true. You live in a country for 6+ years and you don't speak the language. That's surprising. And it just goes all back to how vested was he at the club and his time there. And it shows that he wasn't there psychologically. He made a lot of money, but, let him go. We obviously we're doing a lot better without him. And he can do what he does in Saudi Arabia if he can ever get back on the field healthy and play football again.
Man, Drew came in at the last minute, bringing the
Came in
heat.
hot.
Came in hot. I love it. I'm glad we were able to get you in. Next time, plug in your computer. But man, great
Nate.
thoughts, and I 100% agree with you. I think maybe he's a little salty that we really don't care that he and Messi are gone, because we are more than ecstatic about the current club, the current status of where everything is moving. We're going in the right direction. Young, exciting, fast players. It's a good time to be a PSG fan, and nothing that Messi or Neymar say is going to get us down. So thank you so much for those comments. We'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Ed. You can follow me on Twitter at PSG Talk. Drew, how can people find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Le Chiffre. They're posting most of the match highlights. Not today. I was too busy watching the match. Sometimes I don't want to get too busy posting on Twitter and not being able to analyze the match while it's playing out live.
I know it's hard. Sometimes I want to watch. I'm like, I got to tweet about it. So, but Ethan, how can people find you for all the PSG financial news?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. It's in my bio even, at PSG_Boise. Last bit, you were asking his Neymar's wages per goal. I think his first contract, he's making like 35 to 40 million a year at the club. And then once he signed the extension, he was making 56 million a year. That's what the club is paying out to him. So we have to figure out what the club's, I don't care what his net salary is, but the club was paying, what is that? I don't know, freaking $250 million for 2 knockout goals. So, but yeah, at PSG_Boise for me.
Gosh, that is just depressing. Thank you, Ethan, for that. Thanks so much for listening. Leave us a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave us a review. Really appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.